Leonard Shelby is a man whose short-term memory suffers after being hit in the head while confronting two people who were attacking his wife. Leonard kills one of the attackers, and his wife's death is one of the last things he remembers. Leonard then dedicates his life to tracking down and executing the second attacker. The film has both color and black and white parts. The black and white sections are ordered chronologically, whereas the color sequences are ordered reverse chronologically. Leonard awakens puzzled in a discount-in room. An unknown caller calls. Leonard claims to have anterograde amnesia, a disorder that prevents him from making new memories. He describes the condition by telling the story of Sammy Jenkins. Leonard has a system of notes in place to keep him up to speed whenever his memory restores. Leonard's tattoo indicates, "John G. raped and murdered my wife," which provides additional hints. Leonard looked into Sammy as an insurance investigator. The corporation rejected Sammy's claim because they believed his symptoms were psychological. Leonard remained unconvinced despite Mrs. Jenkins's best efforts to persuade him. Sammy was admitted to a mental health facility, and she never came out of her coma. The unidentified caller describes how Leonard's account of a second attacker was never taken seriously by the police. The caller gives more hints, and claims to be a police officer. Leonard notes that Jimmy Grants, a drug dealer, was the second attacker and informs Leonard that he has scheduled a meeting with Jimmy. Leonard accepts the caller's request to meet at the motel lobby. Leonard meets Officer Gamble in the lobby. Gamble suggests that since he is undercover, Leonard should address him as Teddy. Teddy leads Leonard to an abandoned building. Jimmy Grants knows Leonard as the man with the memory impairment when he gets there. Jimmy is threatened by Leonard. Jimmy begs and tells Leonard that the narcotics Teddy was supposed to bring to the meeting may be paid for with the $200,000 in the trunk of his car. After strangling Jimmy, Leonard starts putting him in Jimmy's clothes and takes a Polaroid picture of his body. Jimmy's body is shown in the footage, which progressively transitions from black and white to color. Jimmy whispers Sammy to Leonard as he is being dragged into the basement, and he then passes away. Leonard reaches the conclusion that Jimmy was not the second attacker, if he was aware of Sammy. When Teddy shows there, he at last acknowledges that Jimmy Grants was a drug dealer, and had nothing to do with the murder of his wife. Teddy informs Leonard that his spouse made it through the attack. He asserts that Leonard's wife had diabetes, and that Sammy Jenkins was a fake, who was never even married. Teddy identifies himself as the policeman who looked into the death of his wife. He claims that more than a year ago, he assisted him in finding and killing the actual John G. and that he believed him regarding the second attacker. Teddy says he took a photo of a beaming Leonard immediately following the death of the second attacker. Leonard put the murder behind him and started looking for John G. all over again. Teddy acknowledges that he is a John G. himself. His full name is John Edward Gamble, but his mother calls him Teddy, and informs Leonard that there are many other John G.'s out there. Prior to forgetting, Lenny makes the decision to carry on with the search, telling himself falsehoods to prepare for Teddy's death. He writes "Don't believe his lies" on Teddy's picture, notes that Teddy's license plate is owned by John G., and reminds himself to get a tattoo of Teddy's license plate, SG-137U. By throwing Teddy's automobile keys into the weeds, Leonard leaves Teddy. After dropping off his pickup vehicle at the refinery, Leonard departs in Jimmy's Jaguar, while still dressed in Jimmy's clothes. Leonard visits a tattoo parlor, and gets the number plate number inked on his leg after putting Teddy's admissions and his own lies behind him. Teddy walks in after seeing the Jaguar parked outside, attempting to relocate the car and convince Lenny to leave town in some new clothes. Leonard notices the letter on Teddy's pictures, and chooses to depart without him. Leonard discovers a note in Jimmy's suit coat pocket. The note is from Natalie, and it instructs Jimmy to go to Ferdy's Pubs. Leonard goes to meet Natalie, not realizing he is wearing Jimmy's clothes and driving Jimmy's automobile. He tells her about his current situation. Natalie believes his story after a test. Natalie invites Leonard to stay at her house. Leonard describes what he remembers of the attack. He claims he awoke to sounds, grabbed a rifle, and discovered his wife being strangled. Leonard shot one intruder, but a second man struck him with a branch and smashed his head into a mirror. He continues by saying the police did not think there was a second attacker. Leonard informs Natalie that there was only one attacker since the second attacker was too clever and left the evidence that indicates different. Natalie pushes Leonard into pursuing a man named Dodd, who she believes has been persistently pestering her for the proceeds from Jimmy's previous drug transactions. Leonard heads out to find Dodd. He heads out of Natalie's house, where Teddy is waiting for him. After noticing the "don't believe his lie" message on Teddy's picture, Leonard does not believe Teddy when he tries to warn him about Natalie. After considering Teddy's suggestion to check into the discount inn, Leonard does conclude he shouldn't be with Natalie. Leonard visits the discount inn. Even though he had previously paid for a first room, Bert at the front desk takes advantage of his physiological condition to rent him a second one. Leonard places a call to an escort. Leonard tells her when the escort shows there that all he wants to do is go back and sleep the night of the attack. The escort wakes him once he falls asleep. He requests the escort to depart. He then removes his wife's personal belongings and burns them in a reservoir. Dodd spots Leonard as he departs the reservoir in the morning. Leonard manages to get away from Dodd and heads to his motel to wait for him. Dodd is beaten and restrained by Leonard when he gets back to his motel room. Leonard contacts Teddy for assistance in dealing with Dodd. Teddy enters Dodd's motel room. Dodd gets convinced to leave town by Leonard and Teddy. In return for Natalie's help in getting rid of Dodd, Leonard stays the night at her place. She consents to follow the number plate number that is permanently inked on Leonard's leg in the morning. Later on that day, Natalie provides him the details and points him in the direction of an abandoned place outside of town where one of her acquaintances used to do bigger deals. Returning to his motel, Leonard takes it. After putting the pieces together at the motel, Leonard determines that Teddy is John Edward Gamble, and that he must be the second attacker. He contacts Teddy, and together they visit the same abandoned structure where Jimmy Grants was murdered just a few days prior. Teddy is then shot in the head by Leonard,